We're going to have a great night tonight, and for you people in Florida, we're going to have a gay night. Gay.
In September of 2020, my daughter told me after school she had a meeting with school officials that was held behind closed doors where they asked her which restroom she wanted to use. I immediately contacted the school and was told by the guidance counselor and assistant principal that I could not be given any information regarding the meeting and that by law, my daughter had to be the one to authorize my notification of the meeting or attendance to the meeting. In other words, school officials asked my 13-year-old child her permission as to whether or not my parental rights would be honored. After many weeks of going back and forth with the district, we learned the middle school had created a transgender, gender nonconforming support plan with our 13-year-old daughter without our knowledge or consent. The plan was a 6-page document completed with my daughter behind closed doors with 3 school officials that included the guidance counselor, the assistant principal, and a social worker I had never met. During the meeting, they asked her questions that could have significantly impacted her safety and her physical and emotional well-being, such as which restroom she preferred to use and which sex she preferred to room with on overnight field trips. The plan also directed school staff to use my daughter's birth name when speaking to us, her parents, and to use a different name in school with teachers, staff, and students. This plan directed school staff to conceal from us that this meeting and plan had ever taken place. When parents are excluded from critical decisions affecting their child's health and well-being at school, it sends the message to children that their parents' input and authority are no longer important. This created a huge wedge between our daughter and us because it sent the message that she needed to be protected from us, not by us. Social transition is a medical and mental health intervention that can lead to significant decisions that will impact the child's mental and physical well-being. Often, social transition is the first step toward medical transition, and schools are grossly unqualified to be taking these steps without parental involvement. Unfortunately, what happened to my family is not an isolated incident. I have been contacted by parents all over our state who's had their rights violated in this same manner. Parental involvement in a child's education is considered by many education experts to be the most important factor in student success. This is well known and documented, yet schools have been systematically cutting parents out of critical decisions being made with their children, painting them as enemies to their children with no due process. Parents know and love their children more than anyone in this world. I have always told my children my number one job is to keep them safe, and this school took that away from me. For the safety of our children, these parental rights violations must stop, and school districts must be held accountable when they break the law. Thank you, Governor, for signing this law.
Great job. And just so you know, the left, they want that to happen to all other families. They don't want any protections for parents. They think that they should just be able to take your kid and do whatever what the hell they want with them. That is wrong. And she was right to stand up against the school district. And now every parent's going to have the right to do that. That there's even people in Hollywood that are opposed, to providing protections for parents and enforcing parents' rights. The one thing I'll say about that is if the people who held up degenerates like Harvey Weinstein up as exemplars and as heroes and as all that, if those are the types of people that are opposing us on parents' rights, I wear that like a badge of honor.
Okay, that's Governor Ron DeSantis. Historic. The bill was signed today. I want to read something that just came across from the Walt Disney Corporation, and I want you to remember this every time that you go to Disneyland or buy a Disney product or subscribe to the Disney Channel. Statement from the Walt Disney Company on signing of Florida legislation. Florida's House Bill 1557, also known as the Don't Say Gay bill. It's really called the Anti-Grooming Bill. That's the official title of Disney. Should never have passed and should never have been signed into law. Our goal as a company is for this law to be repealed by the legislature or struck down in the courts, and we remain committed to support the regional state organizations working to achieve that. Those demons in Hollywood last night on stage, they're not going to get this thing, and I think Disney ought to be taxed out of existence in the state of Florida. It's outrageous what Disney as a corporation has done, and every Republican that's kowtowing to them and giving them tax cuts and basically making their corporate life easier so they can get more profits to go against. Listen to what that mom had to say. It's almost like it's so over the top. You think you're listening to a bad horror movie script. And I can't say enough about the courage of Governor DeSantis, Ron DeSantis, not to back down this, because most politicians would back down. And I think this shows you what a honey badger he is. I want to bring in Boris up. So we got a lot to get through today, from Michigan to Missouri to Pennsylvania. We're going to be all over this. Boris, walk me through what DeSantis did today and kind of the courage he showed.
Steve, honored to be with you here today. A major day in American politics, and really a huge contrast between the disaster, absolute dumpster fire at the Oscars yesterday. And by the way, I didn't watch it. I didn't even know about the whole Will Smith thing till this morning, and the strength of Ron DeSantis of Florida. Here you have the degenerates, the violence, the promulgating, of a complete lack of morals in Hollywood. By the way, the same people who held up, and not just Harvey Weinstein, but let's not forget Roman Polanski and Woody Allen. Let's be real, okay? So maybe that anti-grooming bill is coming too close to home for Hollywood for many people over there. So these same people are attacking Governor Ron DeSantis for doing the right thing. As I've talked about, I've got a little boy, okay, and who I love more than anything in the world. And if anything that's even close to that disturbing story that wonderful mother said happened with my child, trust you me, there will be hell to pay. And I'm proud of Governor Ron DeSantis. I'm proud of the Republican Party in Florida, and I'm calling on all other Republican MAGA governors across the country to go ahead and get the same bill passed and signed into law. And in terms of Disney, you know what, Disney, no one cares. Okay, no one cares that ESPN, which you own, they're doing minutes of silence over this bill. Whatever happened to Michael Jordan's Republicans buy sneakers too? Okay, this is terrible business. Terrible business. Look what happened to the NBA after it went woke. It gets absolutely destroyed. The NFL only came back after deciding, woke's too much for us. So just be honest with yourselves, be honest with your customers, and just go and sell your products, participate in American capitalism.
Every governor that's a MAGA governor in every state should be pushing these anti-grooming bills right now. I don't think the bill's nearly tough enough. It's the 7-year-olds. I'm so shocked when we read the details, because like I said, Boris, this is not kind of the thing we cover on War Room a lot, but we got into it with this radical Judge Jackson about her handling of these pedophiles and really child torture. What we're talking about, child torture in the Supreme Court hearings. Mike Davis is going to join us after the break. Boris, I've only got here so long, and I want to go to Missouri. Aaron Gulbransen from a Star News Network, breaking news out of Missouri today about this redistricting. Aaron, give us an update. Then we're going to bring in Commander Eric Greitens to talk about this. What happened in Missouri this afternoon, sir?
Well, it's actually what's happening as we speak. So the Missouri redistricting plan, which was passed by the Senate, which is a 6-2, or some have said 5-3 Republican majority, they could have had a plan that would have given a Republican seat in the U.S. House. It's not happening. It is before the Missouri House right now. I've talked to several members of staff of the legislature today. They are expected to pass the Senate weak compromise bill. And what that does is it means that they blow an opportunity to pick up another Republican seat in redistricting. Democrats took that opportunity in other states like New York, and Republicans are blowing that opportunity yet again in Missouri.
This bill, if passed, will be 7-2. What will be the final count when you say they pick up another seat? What will be the action?
Yeah, so what it is it keeps the current partisan makeup 6-2. What had been previously proposed and other by the conservatives was a 7-1 Republican majority, which would have added a seat.
Yeah.
What they're doing right now is just sticking to the status quo.
But Boris, I want to bring in here. Actually, the way you calculated Boris Epshteyn is really 5-3, the way these districts kind of break out, right? I mean, this is horrific. We're essentially giving up 2 seats. Am I correct in that, Boris?
No doubt about it. Because one of those that's considered Republican was one where Governor Greitens did win, but I believe Hawley actually lost that new district as they made it up. So it's not really 6-2. It's actually 5. It's really in reality 5-3, making it very, very difficult. So the problem is that this is a state like Maryland for Democrats, New York for Democrats, California for Democrats, where there's an absolute opportunity for Republicans to come in and impose their will. Why are they not doing it?
I know there's an opportunity. Here's what I don't understand, Boris. I'm going to bring Greitens in this. He knows Missouri. You don't have a bigger MAGA state than Missouri. You don't have more patriots in Missouri. You have more patriots there than virtually anywhere. So, Commander Greitens, this is what I don't understand. You had Tennessee lead the way, but you got Florida's in a fight there. But this is, I can understand Maryland or New York, or even though have tremendous, there's more MAGA people in California, but just the way it's structured. And we never whine about playing Smash Mouth. But Missouri, there's something wrong with Missouri, given how Trump's carried as president, the support for President Trump, the polling that comes out of there. How could we possibly be in a situation to give up a seat? And not just that, as Boris keeps pointing out, this is essentially 5-3. So you got to explain it to this audience, because people do not understand this.
It's really simple. It's really simple. Backstabbing RINOs. Backstabbing RINOs who are stabbing not just the people of Missouri in the back, they're stabbing the entire country in the back. You're exactly right, Steve. This is an America First state. This is a President Trump state. This is a patriotic state. I was down Saturday night in Dunklin County in the Boot Heel, 178 people there. And I can tell you this, Steve Bannon, you ask the people of Missouri and they are unanimous, 7-1. They want a 7-1 map. 7 Republicans, 1 Democrat. But instead, you have, just like you saw with election integrity, just like you've seen time after time with Mitch McConnell and weak RINOs stabbing President Trump in the back in D.C., you got the same thing happening here in Missouri. You've got weak RINOs stabbing the people of Missouri in the back. We should have a 7-1 map. Instead, they're giving over these congressional seats. And let's talk about what this means. That means they're giving over votes for the Green New Deal. They're giving over votes for critical race theory. They're giving over votes for open borders. They're giving over votes for defund the police policies, and they're doing that for a decade. It is absolutely inexcusable, and everybody in the posse needs to get on the phone and let the governor of Missouri know, let Mike Parson know, absolutely not. We need to have a 7-1 map in Missouri. These RINOs always like, with their corruption and cowardice, to hide it. They want to do it in quiet. This is in plain sight. Should be 7-1, not this absurd 5-3, 6-2 map. No excuses for giving congressional seats to AOC and Nancy Pelosi.
This is outrageous. Is the only solution here, Commander, right now as we sit here, is you got to get, because it sounds like from Gulbransen at Star News, it's going to pass. Is the relief we have right now is to have the governor, who I kind of thought was in on the fix, is to have him veto this?
That's right. You need to have him veto this. And are they in on the fix? Absolutely. Look, this is another disgusting deal that RINOs did with leftists to stab President Trump in the back and to stab the American people in the back. What they don't like is when the people of Missouri actually see what they've done. These are the same RINOs who stabbed the people of Missouri in the back by passing the largest tax increase in Missouri history. They did that with Republican supermajorities. It is absolutely terrible. It's not what the people want, and we have to make sure that everybody knows, and you let the RINOs know, this is absolutely unacceptable.
Commander, how do people follow you and your campaign? What's your social media and how they get to your campaign site?
Yeah, Steve, we've got patriots all over the country coming out, joining us. We're at ericgreitens.com. That's www.ericgreitens.com. And I'll let everybody know. And I tell you, as a Navy SEAL, we may lose a battle here or there, but we are winning the war. We are taking our country back, and we're letting the leftists and the RINOs know we're coming for them. We're taking our country back.
Commander Greitens, thank you for joining us. Aaron Gulbransen,
Yes,
before I let you go, this is going to take place tonight. Do you have that? If we don't, I'll get the great production staff to get the number of. I need people. Do you have the number right now? They can call the governors or call the switchboard of the assembly there. Do you have it? If not, that's fine. We'll get it.
I don't have it off the top of my head, but they're in session now, just so you know. Yeah.
And this in all likelihood, since they're voting on that bill, won't have to go to committee. This could actually go to the governor's desk tonight or tomorrow to be signed?
It's gonna have to. Everything they're saying is because, remember, they're up against the tomorrow's March 29th filing deadline for candidates to run other districts. So what they're going to do after they pass this is just go, well, we couldn't do anything else. We were running out of time. So they're going to be their explanation, which is a typical legislative explanation that people make when they don't want to make another hard decision. So.
Aaron, how do people get to you at Star News? What's your social media? How do people get to you?
Well, go to the starnewsnetwork.com for all the articles, and find me on Getter at Aaron Gulbransen. That's Aaron Gulbransen on Getter. One of these days I'll get verified so people can find me a little bit easier, but Aaron Gulbransen on Getter.
Okay, thank you very much, Aaron. We'll make sure we'll get you verified on that. Thank you, Boris. And this another scam. They do it up against the blocks. So the governor has to sign and say, "Hey, we have to because people got to file tomorrow. We can't delay the filing. Couldn't do that. Couldn't delay the filing a week or two." Why should MAGA not just be so disgusted? Say, why do we keep doing this? I mean, this one is probably the most outrageous because they had every opportunity to give the redistricting map we needed, and they're handing radicals, the Mark Eliases of the world, they're handing them a victory. They're handing the ability to raise money. They're handing the ability to say, tell the Democrats behind closed doors, the Trump movement doesn't mean anything. The establishment's in control, and they'll tap it down. And we picked up 2 seats. We picked up 2 seats in Missouri that we don't deserve. Boris Epshteyn.
Steve, the reason is that MAGA has won in Tennessee. MAGA has won in Kansas on redistricting. Democrats actually got pushback from a court in Maryland, and MAGA is winning in Florida. This is unacceptable in Missouri. And to Governor Parson, to the members of the legislature who are voting for this 5-3, don't kid yourselves, 5-3 map, while Joe Biden is at historic lows in the polling. Even NBC, the poll over the weekend, has him is ludicrous. 40 approved, 55 disapproved, 39 approval with Hispanics, 32 with independents. Joe Biden is in the basement, even according to mainstream media polling. This is how these RINO Republicans are bailing out Democrats. It's pathetic. It is not MAGA. It is not America First. And to Governor Parsons and those members of the legislature that are voting for this, and in case of Parsons would sign this has to reflect on their continued political career, if there is to be one, after these RINO actions. If I'm a MAGA voter in Missouri, no way I'm reelecting anybody to the legislature that voted for this absolutely crooked realignment, crooked redistricting, nor am I giving Governor Parson any sort of future politically after he completely screwed up redistricting. He should have done what Governor DeSantis did in Florida. Come in and say, I will veto any map that is not 7-1. Instead, he did the opposite. He played footsie with the RINOs, and now we have a 5-3. We lost, as Commander Greitens said, we lost 2 MAGA seats in Missouri. As soon as Parson signs it, I still hope he doesn't, and to the MAGA Patriots, get on your phones, get on your emails, text messaging. If you got to show up at Jeff City, do it. Let's have our voices be heard and make sure we're imploring and telling Governor Parson he should not sign it. But if he does, that is a loss of 2 seats. That is 2 seats harder than it will be to get to 100 seats, 100 years. It is unacceptable. It is against MAGA principles. And frankly, it's pathetic.
But when we talk about 100 seats as a 100-seat pickup, that would put us over 300 seats, be historic opportunity. I'm going to ask Boris in a second about this polling that shows you we could have a historic sweep. But this gets back to courage. Ron DeSantis, remember this thing is down there, started 14-14.
Right.
That DeSantis had jumped in there and gotten tough. In Tennessee, the head of the House, I think the Speaker of the House and the Senate people had to override the governor.
They did.
And that got the ball rolling. And here's what's here's what gripes me so much. Okay, Kansas as well. Here's what gripes me so much. There's not a bigger MAGA state in this union than Missouri.
For sure.
The Patriots there are unbelievable. And how this has happened. How this has happened. And I want to go back to, by the way, we're going to have Matt DePerno on after the break, after Boris punches out, about Michigan. Politico's got a big story about how Trump's gone all in the House of Representatives. Trump sees where the problem is. The problem is in the state legislatures where you have a bunch of RINOs, right, that just want to play footsie. Whether it's Tallahassee, whether it was in Tennessee or Missouri, what you do is you have these state legislators and guys are cutting deals from themselves and saying, hey, I'm at the state level. I don't care about the congressional district. If we give up a seat, why do I care? We're still going to get the majority. Why I care? And I can use that as a trading block. I can get here for something for myself.
But I'm a lobbyist in the future.
Yes. Kornacki had polling on today. They did this polling on polling on MSNBC. But the part they didn't bring was what Cortez brought to today, and I wanted you to comment on it. The independents in the House races, right? It's a 41-31. So it's 2 points overall, but that's including the Democrats, the overweight to the Democrats. When you just look at the independents, it's 41-31. I think that's historic, a 10-point spread. Boris, this administration, this illegitimate regime is imploding, and the only thing propping it up, whether it's redistricting or whether it's legislation, is the RINO, and this is why it is a uniparty Boris Epshteyn.
Well, Steve, get this. This polling is before Joe Biden absolutely embarrassed himself on the international arena and has been criticized and, let's be honest, ridiculed by everybody in the U.S. and everybody all across the world. So this polling, which, by the way, in 1 year, April 2021, approved 53, disapproved 39. Right now, approved 55, disapproved 40. That's overall, and that skews Democrat, obviously, in their sample. And then again, if you look at where the key demographics are in the crosstabs, always signal, not noise for this audience. 39% Latino approval. It was 48 a year ago, 10% drop. Independents, 36 down to 32. This Joe Biden, the illegitimate occupant of the White House, has absolutely no political capital left. And you know what the beauty is for this audience? We've been telling you it's heading there. We told you when independents crossed 40, it was a big deal. Now they're getting down to the low 30s, they're going to cross 30. This pathetic administration that is absolutely destroyed itself and that has had disasters on everything from the southern border, Afghanistan, supply chains, inflation, and now Ukraine is imploding, and it's got nothing left. You've got stories coming out today. Oh, Kamala Harris, her toughest time is keeping a close circle. She's a disaster, okay? Biden has no idea what day it is, and politically, this is, and we talked about this before, this is not a win, and this is not about a win in 2022 and a win in 2024 for MAGA. This is about putting a stake in the Democratic Party and saying it's done. It's over. This is who you gave us.
Amen.
You gave us these illegitimate usurpers in Harris and Biden, and this is what they've done to our country. People don't feel safe walking in cities. People don't have goods that they can buy in stores. And American supremacy is being laughed at all over the world. So the bottom line here is that the Biden regime is the killer of the Democrats, and I hope forever.
Here's I want to make sure, by the way, that in the next half hour, we're going to go to Matt DePerno in Michigan. We're going to go to Toni Schuppe in Pennsylvania. We got Mike Davis about the Supreme Court. We're going to try to tuck in Joe Allen on a preview for tomorrow. But I got to ask you this. You're a street guy. You know what an inverted yield curve means. The yield curve's now inverted. That's always the forecast for recessions coming. What people don't understand, by this summer, you think it's bad now, you ain't seen nothing yet. Nothing. The biggest negativity in this economy is about to hit us right in the mouth. Boris, what kind of impact is that going to have in this illegitimate regime?
Wipeout. This is already, and we don't mean to repeat this, but this is the truth. And repetition is important when the truth is at stake. This is the worst president in American history. Worse than Buchanan, worse than Jimmy Carter, the worst, period, full stop, okay? Once the interest rates go up and the economy fully collapses on Joe Biden, Democrats are going to be afraid to show their faces even as they try to campaign for some sort of re-election in 2022. You're, I believe, at 31, 32 retirements right now. By the time the fall hits, you could be at 50, 60 retirements. You think Shifty Schiff wants to be in the minority in the House? Or you think Swallow wants to be in the minority after all of the crimes they've committed in trying to go after President Trump and his supporters? Absolutely not. So, it started with Spire and Yarmouth and others. Well, now look out. That's going to continue because as the economy continues to go downhill, Democrats are going to run for the hills because the American people want nothing to do with them. But let this be a lesson for generations to come. This is what happens when you put these woke, radical, socialist losers in control.
Okay, real quickly, how do people get to your morning newsletter, your social media, all of it, Boris?
No doubt, we're on fire. BorisCP.com is the website. Super hot setup right now, BorisCP.com. Hot on Getter at BorisCP. Twitter at BorisCP. Truth Social at Boris. And, of course, the hottest on the gram, Boris_Epshteyn. Stay strong. God bless. I'll see you tomorrow.
Thank you, Boris Epshteyn. Okay, next half hour, President Trump is actually going in hard on the state legislature of Michigan. The tip of the spear is Matt DePerno. You remember him from our crusade to get this election right. We also have Toni Schuppe for Audit the Vote PA. She's going to talk to us about canvassing, other things going in Pennsylvania. And then we've got Mike Davis, an update on this, on the coddling of pedophiles by Judge Jackson. All next in War Room Battleground.
War Room Battleground with Stephen K. Bannon.
Hey, welcome back. We've got a lot to get to in this half hour, so I'm going to get right on it. Let's go to Matt DePerno. Politico's got an incredible article that's up today this morning. It talked about, everybody's focused on Georgia and Pennsylvania. You got huge Senate races in Pennsylvania and the governor's race. Georgia, obviously, President Trump down there over the weekend. Arizona, and we're going to have Carrie Lake back on later in the week. So we got so much going on in these other states. People kind of tend to forget about Michigan a lot, right? And they had an article that, hey, maybe the most important thing that President Trump's doing is this work he's doing in Michigan. Thank you very much, Memphis. They've got the Political article up there. And for our podcast audience and radio audience, we put all these up in the chat rooms and we put them up on our Getter account. I want to make sure you get it. This actually said of everything that you're hearing about, this may be the most important because this is where Trump's really committed to turning around, wait for it, state legislatures. And why? Because we know from 3 November movement, that's the state legislatures that have the power about certifying electors. And as you can just see, and also redistricting, you've seen all these fights we've had in Tennessee and in Florida and now in Missouri, state legislatures about these redistricting. There's so much power in the Constitution given to state legislatures. They've always been forgotten about by people up the ticket, where they ain't being forgotten about now. And of course, a guy who needs no introduction to the War Room posse, Matt DePerno, is actually in this article as the tip of the spear. Matt, walk us through what President Trump is doing with you folks in Michigan to basically turn the state legislature into a MAGA operation.
Yeah, thanks, Steve. Thanks for having me on. What he's doing in Michigan is he has come out, he's endorsed me as a America First candidate. He's endorsed Christina Caramo, who's running for Secretary of State. And then I believe 10 separate people running for the legislature. He is fully committed to Michigan. He wants to turn the legislature around. He wants to turn Michigan around back into a conservative state. And that's why he's coming here on Saturday, April 2, to do a rally to specifically push the America First candidates that he's endorsed.
So this Saturday, we have a big rally in Michigan. We'll get to some details of that in a second. Here's what I think to people, and we see this in Missouri, we see this all the place. Correct me if I'm wrong, Matt, and this was the big wake-up call for us after 3 November. isn't Michigan's, I think both the House and the Senate, aren't they controlled by Republicans, sir?
They are. They are controlled by Republicans. Absolutely.
And how did we have, so why would it take a President Trump to come in and back people like yourself to actually make this MAGA? I mean, this is what I think people were so shocked about after 3 November. You actually had a Republican-controlled House and Senate. Yeah, you couldn't get a special session. You really could never get, after all the great presentations, and of course yours up in Antrim County, what you found, which is still, to me, kind of some of the leading edge information about the machines. And we're not machine guys, but you kind of brought it. I think the technicians the other day we had this great briefing for Mesa County, Colorado. I think they said, hey, part of this is really what Matt DePerno was driving at in Michigan. How do we get in a situation that Trump's got to go out of his way and focus on state legislatures when this is a state, and Michigan's very conservative. You get the Detroit area or the University of Michigan, you get upstate, this is MAGA country. How's the situation? We have a Republican-controlled House and Senate, yet it's not responding to the MAGA agenda.
Yeah, it's a real issue. It's a fight right now within the Republican Party. I would say I'm leading that charge in the sense of the conservative grassroots movement. I'm running against an opponent in this upcoming endorsement convention, who I would say is leading the charge on behalf of the establishment progressive RINO movement. And that's what we have right now. Donald Trump made a call after the November 3rd, 2020 election, reached out to the Michigan State Legislature, asked them for help, and they did not respond. And that was a problem for him. So he made the call out to many other people within the state. People stepped up, said, we will run, primary these people. And he's come out in full force and endorsed many of them. He's come out in full force and endorsed me. Listen, it's a great event when you can get the President of the United States to come to Michigan to support candidates, and that's what he's doing this Saturday.
Yeah, I just want to be clear because you kind of came up. You're like the Jimmy Stewart character in Mr. Smith Goes to Washington. Trump wasn't technically asking for help. He just said, "Do your duty." The Constitution, the founders put this in state legislature stuff. Do your duty. The Act of 1887. The Electoral Count put it at the state legislatures. That's what I said. This was never about flipping electors. This was about the certification process of the Biden electors. The certification of the Biden electors. What are we looking to do is decertify the Biden electors. What President Trump was requesting is do your duty. Matt DePerno, how do people tell us about the rally? I want as many people as possible, particularly in the region, to get access to the information. I want people also to get access to you, learn more about you, and find out about your campaign.
Yeah, you can find me at my campaign at DePerno4MI.com, DePernoformi.com, on Twitter at MDePerno. And go to my campaign website. People can volunteer if they want. For April 2nd, it's going to be a huge rally, Washington, Michigan, which is on the southeast side of the state, Macomb County. We're going to start there. We had a big tailgate lined up in the early afternoon. I think it starts at 2 o'clock. And then the president's going to go on stage at 7 p.m. It's going to be excellent because he's coming with a specific message to Michigan delegates. Because remember, Steve, in Michigan, the Attorney General and the Secretary of State are chosen through a delegate process at a convention on April 23rd. And President Trump is coming right before that. It's intentional. He wants to speak to every one of these delegates. We are inviting them, giving some of them special access into the event. And he's coming with a very specific message so that we can take back this state for the MAGA movement, the conservative movement, and the America First movement.
It is symbolic he's going to Macomb County. That is the heart of Reagan country. Those are Reagan Democrats right there, and that's how we're going to take this country back. DePerno, as always, you're a patriot and hero, and I got to tell you, that Politico article was, I think, so incredibly positive. And I said, hey, we finally now had the focus on what President Trump's doing down ticket to make sure you get the AGs, the secretaries of state, and particularly start to take back these state legislatures with MAGA candidates. So, Matt, Thank you so much. Really honored to have you on here.
Thank you. Thanks for having me, Steve.
Folks, I can tell you that the rallies all over the country are great, and everyone's got a different flavor to it. But the Michigan rallies are a whole next level. So we're going to have a lot of information on this one on the 2nd in Macomb County in Washington, Michigan. Okay, I want to go to another fighter right now in another key battleground state, Toni Schuppe of Audit the Vote in PA. She's been, what is the Navarro dictum? It's the canvas, not the count. We saw that in Arizona. Remember, the assistant secretary of our assistant DOJ attorney general sent the letter on May 5th of 2021 to tell the patriots in Arizona, hey, it's bad enough that you're doing another audit and a forensic audit. You got the basketball arena down there. But if you start going door to door, knocking on doors and doing a canvas, which is totally right, that's going to be into criminal activity. You just had this ridiculous story come out in Colorado the other day. Bannon and all his followers are going door to door with shotguns and everything like that to try to terrorize people. Nothing could be further from the truth, but they are scared to their death of what Navarro said. It's the canvas, not the count. Toni Schuppe, tell us what you got about canvassing up there in the Commonwealth of Pennsylvania, ma'am.
Thanks for having me back on. We did a press release. We just released canvassing results about a week ago from 10 different counties. We canvassed over 3,000 houses. The discrepancies that we're finding are egregious. The worst one is Allegheny County with a 73% discrepancy rate. What that means when we go to the door, we ask 3 basic questions. Well, first we verify the individual we're talking to actually lived at that address in November of 2020. Then we ask them, did you vote in 2020? How many people are registered to vote at this address to the best of your knowledge? And how many of those voted in the 2020 election? Allegheny County, 73% of the time, the answers at the door did not match the certified result from the State Department. The best case scenario is Lancaster County, where that was 37%. How in the world do you trust an election with best case scenario, a 37% discrepancy rate? Delaware County, 59%. Washington County, 50% discrepancy rate. It's insane.
Toni, you and I talked about this before you and the Patriots started about this, and I think people would say, I don't know if it's 1 or 2, 3%. It'd be like, whoa, can we have a safe election? I just want to know what the Patriots that were going door to door, what were you guys feeling when all of a sudden you realized, hey, this could be a third of the electorate or more, or over half it's just wrong. The data's wrong. The information's wrong. We have no earthly idea of who's actually voting or who's allowed to vote or who thinks they can vote. Toni Schuppe.
It's energizing and heartbreaking at the same time. It's heartbreaking to realize how manipulated the 2020 election was. At the same time, it energizes us that no matter how much pushback we get from the state legislators, we cannot give up because we've seen entirely too much. I've been in people's houses who have actually told me they are concerned about President Trump running in 2024. They're, in my opinion, brainwashed by the mainstream media. They think he's terrible. They're really concerned. They actually said, I voted in 2020 to get him out, but because our survey is nonpartisan, they thanked me before I left. Thank you for what you're doing. This is vital work. This is absolutely going to make a difference. And when we leave those houses, is what gives me the most energy, because I realize this really isn't a left or right, a Democrat, Republican issue. This is the bedrock of our constitutional republic, making sure that our elections are free and fair. And right now, they're totally not.
Okay, I know that the Attorney General Shapiro has embraced you, and the Secretary of State and the leaders of the Republican legislature have embraced you and said, hey, we want you to come and make a formal presentation in front of the state Senate. And I know Shapiro is saying, hey, I really want to work with you guys. This is really bad. Am I correct in that assertion?
Not quite. We're pushing for a legislative hearing. We've been on them now for a week. We're getting our volunteers. I just sent a massive email out to the entire House, the entire Senate with our press release, all our results. The Epic Times did an article on us that is just astonishing. So we're pushing for that right now, but we're asking our volunteers on the ground to please reach out to your reps, House reps, and your senators and let them know. Legislative hearing. We cannot have reform. How can we reform something without doing a deep dive investigation into actually what went wrong? I know the Senate is doing their investigation into the SURE system, which is our electronic voter roll database, and that's going to show massive discrepancies, which is exactly what this canvassing has essentially corroborated. But we've got to get this stuff out to the public in order to be able to move forward with the proper legislative reform.
Toni, if we send people to your website, do you have a number up there of where people can call, color within the lines, but how they can assist you in getting people in the legislature to pay attention, at least give you guys a hearing and let you present your facts?
It's probably not directly on our website. I need to get that added, but it's all over our social media, our Telegram channel. At this point, I feel like people know how to get to their House reps and their senators, but we should get that stuff on our website too. What you can do to really help us out.
Media? I want people to go to it right now.
You could help us out by
So how do they
going to
get to
our
you?
website and donating to us. We have a subscription model for $5 a month. People can donate to us. It'll help us with lawsuits. We're right now battling out in court, trying to get outer envelopes of the mail-in ballots, trying to get ballot images, trying to get the cast vote record. We're being denied at every turn. We've appealed all our right to know requests, which essentially is Pennsylvania's version of a FOIA. We're in court right now battling that, but we could really use any financial support or volunteers that people can give us. You can follow us on Telegram, Gab, Getter, Truth Social, Facebook, Instagram, and of course our website, auditthevotepa.com. Thanks for having me on, Steve. I really appreciate it.
On social media, it's all Audit the Vote PA?
Yep, Audit the Vote PA on all the social media.
You're a fighter. Honored to have you on here, ma'am.
Thanks for having me.
Courage is contagious, ladies and gentlemen, whether it's Governor DeSantis in Florida, whether it's Commander Greitens in Missouri, whether it's Toni Schuppe in Pennsylvania, Commonwealth of Pennsylvania, whether it's Matt DePerno in Michigan. Hey, we're winning this thing, and it takes fight. I want to go now to Mike Davis. Mike Davis, Mike, from Article 3. I hear you got potentially breaking news on this, on the radical Supreme Court judge that's up, Judge Jackson. Walk us through. There's a new development I think you can at least give us an indication on.
I can give you a high level preview because we're still trying to track this down and verify it. The Biden White House publicly disclosed 14 cases of child pornography that Judge Jackson handled in her 8 years on the D.C. District Court, and they failed to disclose one of these cases. Their argument was that Judge Jackson followed the process, the probation officer's guidelines, which is just nonsense. She disregarded Congress, the American people through Congress. She disregarded the sentencing guidelines from the Sentencing Commission on which she served as the vice chair, and she cherry-picked recommendations from these court staffers to have a policy that she's had for over a decade of lenient sentences for sex predators of kids, people who watch child rape on television. It's sick and depraved.
And
so
hold it. We got to stop calling it child pornography. You had it best. It's child torture. They're watching the torture of children. They're watching. I want everybody to understand. They're watching the torture of babies and children. This is what we're talking about. Hold it. But 15. I thought the university we're talking about is 7. There's 7 that she clearly made some decision on that I guess is below the standards. Are you saying there's actually an 8th case in there, not 7?
There is an 8th case. And so there were 14. They disclosed 14. 7 of those, Judge Jackson had discretion. And all 7 cases, she went out of her way to grant significant leniency to these monsters who are watching this stuff on television. And we found this 8th case, and it's real bad.
Yeah. Mike, I don't understand this. There's 48,000 pages, I think, from the Biden administration they're holding back. There's all the records when she's vice chairman of the Sentencing Commission they're holding back. They won't give any of the 7 probation officer report, the pre-sentencing report. We can't say that. There's a massive amount of work, and you did this for Grassley, which I think I've never heard of anything being held back, but all this is being held back. Now you're actually telling me they missed a case. Why didn't Judge Jackson bring it up then? If that's the case, they said 7. Said, no, you actually missed it. There were 8 of those cases. Why, if this is true, would Judge Jackson not bring that up, sir?
Because this is a massive cover-up of her very disturbing record, and her very disturbing record of 25 years where she thinks that we're too harsh on sex predators of kids. And that she said that back at Harvard Law School in her published note. She did this. She was the tip of the spear on this, on the Sentencing Commission, to change U.S. government policy position on this stuff. And then her 8 years on the bench, she went 8 for 8. 8 for 8. Every chance she had to sentence these monsters for possessing this child sex torture and trading it. She possess, watch, trade this stuff, or you create this market for more. 8 out of 8 times
she took the side of these predators.
Unbelievable. We're going to have more about you tomorrow. By the way, there has been crickets all day. There's not a mention of any of even Judge Jackson. They understand. They've got to hunker down and try to get this through because Mike Davis, every second of every day, is exposing this. Mike, how do people follow you on Getter and how do they follow you on Twitter?
MRDDMIA, MRDDMIA, and it's at article3project.org, at article number 3project.org.
You got to get on his Twitter and his Getter feed because it's nonstop. Mike Davis, we'll see you tomorrow. Fabulous job, sir. Great patriot.
Thank you, Steve.
Davis, unbelievable. Joe Allen, Joe, I got to get you onto the battleground thing. So you're working on something that's blowing my head up. It's so big that we're going to tease it. You're going to have some tomorrow and the next day. Walk us through. Give me a minute and a half on what you're finding.
Thank you very much, Steve. Good to be here. So last summer we covered the quantum dot tattoo that was developed at MIT and funded by the Bill and Melinda Gates Foundation. We covered it 2 or 3 times. I wrote an article, Reaching for the Mark of the Beast, which discussed it. But I didn't really understand the full implications of where that technology was coming from until our friend Beardvet sent me some information on the company behind it. The company is Particles for Humanity. And the people running the company are Robert Langer, who is the co-founder of Moderna and an MIT professor. There is Anna Jeklinick, who is also an MIT scientist. And maybe most importantly, or at least most scandalous, is Boris Nikolic. Boris Nikolic runs Biomatics Capital, but he was also the chief advisor to Bill Gates on all matters scientific. He is also the successor executor for Jeffrey Epstein's will. Now, I'm not one to piece together, loose threads to prove a conspiracy, and I'm not trying to do that here. But in the article coming out tomorrow,
no coincidences.
Yeah, purely coincidence. In the article coming out tomorrow, though, I'm tracing where these ideas come from and where they're going.
Hang on. Yeah, we're running out of time. We're going to put the article up tomorrow. You're going to join us on tomorrow morning show. Real quickly, how do people get to you on Getter?
You can find a great thread on this at the top of my Getter page at JOEBOTXYZ.
Tomorrow at 10 o'clock, this show is going to fire off the football. Want to see everybody back ready to strap in the war room tomorrow morning at 10 o'clock.